All right. Assalamu alaikum and welcome to the Madmamluks podcast. My name is Sim. Along with me is my co-host, Naureen Ahmed, and we're excited today to bring Chris Blauvelt.
Yes, that's definitely too French. Yeah, it's more like a Dutch-German Blauvelt.
Blauvelt.
I tell people it's like Roosevelt.
Okay.
Yeah,
Well,
so
I didn't want to be the ignorant American and pronounce it
Yeah.
the way it actually is spelled. And I thought it was Blauvelt.
Yeah,
Like-
Blauvelt. No,
But,
not that fancy.
We're excited to have him because he is the founder of Launchgood. Everyone knows Launchgood, especially if you're brown. He's the man behind the operations of Launchgood because Launchgood has done a lot of good, and they've inspired so many different organizations or funded so many different organizations all around the country, and just done amazing work. And we're truly honored to have you on, man.
Alhamdulillah, assalamu alaikum. I'm really honored to be here, and big fan of Mad Memluks podcast and what you guys have been doing, and knowing the background and all the work you've put into it. It's really impressive.
Thanks a lot, brother. So this is a Mad Mamluks first because my wife is actually joining.
Wow.
Maheen
I'm
Islam.
honored.
Yeah. Maheen Islam is out of the office. I think he's out of the country or out of the state, traveling for work. So Naureen here has been kind enough to join us. Especially, it's tough for her because she knows she hasn't been on with me, and she always knows when I'm kind of my own little things of quirks. Yeah, right. On how I behave and my tone of voice. So hopefully you'll be forgiving if for any mistakes.
I want to know who's going to ask the tough questions.
Oh man.
Oh, he's gonna ask a tough question. I'm just a
You're the
commentator.
good cop. He's the bad cop.
Yeah, I don't ask questions. I told him I'm not an interviewer. I'll
Well-
just commentate. I'll just make fun of people.
The
Can you move
thing,
that? Oh.
the thing is that Chris is so dang nice that it's hard to be tough to him. So
Oh,
we just had Chinese with him, and I got to know a little bit more about him. I try not to have a full-on discussion with any of our guests when we have some of
Yeah.
these little meetups before having before having the podcast,
It's
because
true.
you end up burning
Once I
through
started
material.
going into my some stuff, you were like, "I'm going to the bathroom. I'm
Yeah,
going to wash up. I don't
Yeah.
want to hear it."
exactly.
Yeah.
Exactly. So, Chris, how did this all start? Like, where did you come from? All of a sudden, there's people messaging me from all around the country. A lot of listeners saying, "Bring Chris on, bring Chris on." He's got,
Oh, really?
he's doing
Oh,
some
that's
amazing things,
very
and I'm like,
Humbling, undeserved, of course, but I have to tie it to my personal story. So if you don't mind, I'll go into a little bit of my personal story, because I think I believe it leads into Launchgood itself.
Yeah, for sure.
Funnily enough, I was born in Malaysia.
Oh.
So there's some whole story there. My mom, for some reason, won't share the details with me, but something about like me being born and then going off, I don't know. But I was born into white Christian family from America who happened to be, my dad happened to be working in Malaysia at that time. Fast forward a few years, we moved back to America. Fast forward a few years after that, we moved to Massachusetts. I'm 13. Do your listeners know about your heavy metal background?
"Oh yeah, yeah."
Okay. So I was more of in the punk stage,
Oh,
skater,
I was a punk rocker.
poser. So I had like
Yeah.
the mushroom cut, the chains,
Oh,
the safety pins in my shirt, like
yeah,
Nice.
yeah.
skateboard. I was terrible at skateboarding, but I pretended. I was a good poser.
Oh, yeah.
And a very unhappy 13-year-old. And we moved to Massachusetts next door to the Dans. So the Dans had a son, Michael. So Michael Dan. He and I were the same age, both white, middle, upper class kids. We go to the same church. And we were both tennis stars. So we ended up being like kind of the two best tennis players in our school. But other than that, we were very different. So he was into Bob Marley and some, that old school rap, like
Right, reggae or
we're having Tupac, Biggie, like all that stuff.
yeah.
And I was into the punk, the ska.
Mhm.
He unfortunately, got into drugs and alcohol at a pretty young age. And so that was just trouble for me. Like I was like, even though I was trying to be a punk, I actually was like a good student still.
Yeah.
Wait, were you straight edge?
Yeah.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, I was pretty straight edge.
What does
Yeah.
that mean?
So straight edge back in the day, they would have X's on their hands.
Yeah.
And it meant that they refrained from drugs, alcohol, sex.
I didn't put the X's on my hands,
Oh.
and probably the third
you
one
weren't-
wasn't voluntary, but it just what happened to be the situation.
Okay. Okay.
Yeah, but I
Okay.
would be called a straight edge. Like
Yeah.
it was not something I would have like owned. Like I'm a straight edge. You know, that would have been a little too
Oh.
square. I was trying to
Oh.
pretend
In
I was
Arkansas was
straight.
pretty cool. Like
Really?
Yeah, the straight edge kids were.
That's probably because you had the
Or,
whole. I mean, I was in like New England. Like that's not a
we
cool
had the
thing.
Bible
like,
Belt,
Yeah, the Bible
yeah.
Belt, like straight edge. Love you,
Yeah.
Jesus. You know,
Oh,
like
yeah,
I don't
yeah.
think we had that.
There were like evanescence in them. You can-
Yeah.
yeah,
Yeah.
for
That's
sure.
like honestly, that's kind of cool. Like respect to Arkansas and the Bible Belt for like making it cool to be straight edge. Yeah, that was
Yeah.
not like that was a derogatory word. And you're like, were you straight edge? I was like, yeah, yeah. You got me. So anyway, Mike, his life changed when he's 15. He ended up. Well, I didn't realize, but he converted to Islam. So I noticed some stuff. So you know, we'd be playing tennis, and he'd go off and like meditate in the corner. I'm like, oh, what was he doing? And then that was the end of sophomore year. The beginning of junior year, at least in my high school, was like the year you take it really seriously. It's like your last full year of high school before they send your grades to colleges
Right,
you're applying
right.
to. So all the go-getters do like AP biology, AP history. So I'm in AP European history, which is the worst class. Like you'd only do it if you're really serious about your school. And Mike's sitting there, and I mean, Mike was like a total pothead, like.
So by the way, Mike is a pseudonym, right? We're protecting the names of the innocent and all that.
No.
Just yes.
Yes.
Nod, yes.
Maybe. It's all right. Mike and I are boys.
Okay. Cool.
So it's too late now. So
We're too far.
Yeah,
We're
yeah.
too far in.
he, you know, he's in this class, Miss Johnson's AP European history class. And I'm like, hey, I think you're lost, buddy. Like, you know, this is AP European history. He's like, no, I'm taking this class. And he had this calm to him that like, you know, struck me. And I started noticing some other things, like his sideburns got really long. Being, you know, 16, we couldn't actually grow beards yet.
Right.
Well, either that or he becomes hardcore Salafi.
Which is what happened. And and he came into school in a dress one day. I'm like, whoa, Mike, you know, like what is going on? Of course, it was a thobe.
Yeah.
And
AKA the ghost outfit.
yeah, the ghost. So I learned that he had become Muslim,
Yeah.
and we start talking about it, and you know, really, he had turned his life around. His whole story. I mean, that's another podcast. He's a professor down at UIUC, so I hope you bring him up sometime.
Oh, cool.
Yeah, amazing brother. So he, you know, his tennis coach is old school African American Muslim, like converted, you know, from Elizabeth, New Jersey, played in the U.S. Open doubles with Arthur Ashe, converted
Oh.
Islam with like the time of Malcolm X, like really cool personality. His name's Art Carrington. And he had you know, when Mike basically hit bottom, Art was there to pick him up and provide him, you know, that male mentorship that he needed in his life. And alhamdulillah, brought him to Islam. Not, you know, like Art himself, if you saw him, you wouldn't even know he's Muslim. Like he doesn't wear a beard, for example, but he prays 5 times a day, alhamdulillah. But it's like firm in his heart. And, you know, Mike just, you know, followed him because he realized that Art was living a much better life than he was.
Oh.
And Mike turned his life around, and that caught my attention. And we started hanging out, and then we started driving to school together and we were taking classes together. And then we started eating lunch together, and then the tennis season began. And that was when we were like really spending a lot of time together. And I kept asking him so many questions about Islam. And I found that there was always an answer to all these my questions. You know, things that, you know, led me away from Christianity. So, you know, growing up Protestant, Presbyterian, you know, I had questions about that faith, my faith, like, how do we know this holy book is authentic? And if you start digging into the history of the Bible, your faith is going to be shook, you know?
Yeah.
Yep.
And you probably saw that down in Arkansas.
Yeah.
And then I start asking the same question about the Quran, and you're like, whoa, like this book has not changed. Like Sunnis and Shias and everyone has the same book, and it's like still in its original language. And wow, that's something special. And you know, there are many such examples. That's just one. And then I read, in parallel, I was reading the Autobiography of Malcolm X.
Oh, wow. Just like every other radical.
Yeah. I mean, really, subhanAllah, I mean, probably.
No, that book is amazing, man. I gave it to my teenage daughters. It's just life-changing.
And did they appreciate it?
Yeah, well, it's still a little bit beyond their
yeah.
vocab, but they're still.
They
kinda
need to
working
watch the
through it.
movie.
Yeah.
They'll probably be on their level.
The Spike Lee joint. Really, I mean, it did a couple things for me. I grew up in I've grown up in a bubble, and we talk about like white privilege and stuff like totally my life, right?
Yeah.
And I was, reading Black Boy and Bluest Eye and these books, and I was and his class was African American literature, and I'm like, subhanallah, I thought racism died in the 60s, and it's still clearly so prevalent today.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, this was even before social media. We're talking about the year 2000 right now.
Yeah.
2001. So, it's like awakening for me. And then I was like, I started becoming passionate about the issue. And, when you're 16, you're so idealistic and you want things to be right. You really care about justice. And I was like, how do we right this wrong? Like, how do we really fix racism and the racist history of this country and legacy? And so then I was reading the Autobiography of Malcolm X. On the one hand, you have that incredible personal transformation, like I was seeing in my friend Mike, and here it is in Malcolm X's story. And on top of that, he's saying at the end of the book, he goes on the Hajj, and he's like, America needs Islam because Islam is the solution to its problems. And, one of the most paramount ones being racism. And it's like, you can change the rules and the laws and all of that, but if you don't change what's in people's hearts, you'll never get rid of racism. And that really touched me. That made the most sense of everything to me, is that we have to change what's in our hearts. Mm-hmm. And I believe that Islam could change the hearts because, you had Malcolm himself, rahimahullah, who was, he literally believed white people were a creation of the devil. Yeah. To believing that they are his brothers and sisters in Islam. Yeah. And he was completely transformed by Orthodox Islam. And that really got my attention. And I want to be Muslim. Like, I wanted to put the bow tie on. I wanted to fight the man, even though that was, essentially my father. And like, I really, really wanted to be Muslim, but I didn't believe in God. And I didn't want to fake it. So I was like, I'm not, I got to be sincere. There's something that stood out to me in his autobiography, which was when he was in prison and considering Islam, he was told, what, do you guys remember?
No.
Put you on the hot spot.
I don't remember.
He was told, if you take one step towards God, God will take 2 steps towards you.
Oh, yeah.
Just like the hadith, if you come to Allah walking, Allah will come to you running.
Yes.
And, hand spin, then it comes to arm spin. So, he's like, if you take 1 step towards Allah, he takes 2 towards you. A lot of reason I had left Christianity was rationalism and I thought it was a choice between faith, faith and science, right? A reason or belief. Mm-hmm. And now I was saying, well, this is a hypothesis that if I take 1 step towards this so-called God, he'll take 2 steps towards me. I'm a scientifically minded man, so I will test that hypothesis. And I quit eating pork. I quit going to parties. And my intention was, if this is true and you're real, God, then, guide me and let me know that. And if not, I'm going to have the biggest barbecue bender in the summer. And, alhamdulillah, there was never a barbecue bender. And I think for me, it was, again, reading all about Islam. Like, the more I studied, the more I couldn't deny it. And then I got to a point where I was reading about the hereafter, and I realized that this is serious. I don't know how far I should go in this, but we just say, like, I was reading about heaven and hell, and I realized, like, maybe tomorrow I go outside and I get hit by a car and I die. Yeah. And if I die, I don't want to risk it. So, I basically made Pascal's wager, and I was like, I'll become Muslim. Oh, wow. Which was at that time, at 16. At
16, the Pascal wager is very appealing. I remember going through that myself. Just, I'm like, you know what? What's the harm in believing? Because there wasn't, as I was telling you over dinner, when I was young, there wasn't the luminaries that we have now. We had kind of some of the uncles who were helping us through some of our tough questions. A lot of what the young Muslims see nowadays, the Muslim community in America was still very nascent, and a lot of the people that can talk to the youth, they just didn't exist, and you had to talk to uncles, and they just weren't you weren't getting satisfactory answers to your questions, but you knew, like, you just didn't want to.
It's just not worth it.
Yeah, you didn't want to give up on the religion. You're just like, okay, well, what am I gaining by actually not believing? Well, nothing. You know, I'm still doing all the haram I want, you know, and I don't have to really give up my belief to stop doing my haram. I could still do it, you know, and
just believe.
Just still believe in it, you know. So it was kind of like that. I
you know, it's interesting
relate.
because in the West, definitely the Pascal's wager is frowned upon. It's like, like you're a hypocrite, basically. But what they don't realize is, what is Pascal's wager? Like, what's the origin of it? And you guys might know this better than me, but as I understand it, you know, it was Pascal was a famous mathematician, scientist. He had a true ru'ya, like a true dream of the hellfire. So true that he wrote it down and sewed it into his coat pocket. And he became not a dogmatic Christian, but a very spiritually sincere believer. And very fearful of God, to the point that now we have this thing called Pascal's wager. Yeah. So, you know, like, I remember, because again, I was atheist. You'd be like, well, if you believe in that, well, what if I tell you there's like unicorns on Mars, and if you don't believe in them, you're going to hell? Like, there's no, like, that's not grounded in any sort of reality. Yeah. Like, there are people who have dreams, like, really see heaven, really see hell, really, I mean, we have books, these revelations that survive thousands of years with a consistent message. Like, it's not, who said there's unicorns on a planet in space? Like, they're not, it's not an apples to apples comparison. But anyway, so that was for me. I was like 16. When you're 16, it's easy to make decisions like that. You just don't really think about consequences. Yeah. It was also pre 9/11. We lived in Amherst, so the only Muslims I knew were Art, Mike, and Malcolm X. Like, it was very simple. Like, there was no masjid. That was almost an hour away for the closest masjid. Yeah. And it was, you know, in a way, it was very beautiful. It was very simple. Like, on my way here, I was talking to Dr. Kamran Riaz, and I was you know,
he's a good friend of ours.
Yeah, so I was inviting him out to our, you know, we have a meetup soon for Launchgood. He's like, oh, I'm going down to Disney World. And I was like, oh, remember the days when, like, Mickey Mouse was in Nara Jahannam, like, your corner, like, you know, Hamza used to pop, the old school videos, VHS. And they were like, yeah, in some ways those were simpler times, you know? Yeah. So that was like when I became Muslim, was like right 3 months before 9/11. So it was like, there's a lot of bad with it too. Like, it was not sustainable, some of those things. But in other ways, like, I mean, you weren't forced to constantly analyze every aspect of your religions and your religion, your belief and all this. But that's, you know, how I became Muslim.
That's crazy that you just, I mean, I didn't really want to ask you about your conversion story, essentially, because a lot of converts are very sensitive about that, and I've gotten a lot of feedback from converts about that, and so I'm at this point where, like, I'm kind of like just kind of left in your corner.
What do they say? They say, like, there's a black tax and then there's the Muslim tax. Like, white people, when they become Muslim, they had to pay the Muslim tax, like, prove that they're really Muslim, you know? Yeah. Like, oh, are you really?
Yeah.
Like,
did you convert for the right reasons? Was it all the correct criteria that you took into play before? Right. Did you see the miracle in the Arabic language, sir? Yeah. How much Arabic did you memorize before you understood the miracle of the Arabic language?
Did you feel like you had to go through that?
Or what about changing your name because you didn't?
Well, okay, so that was what I was going to say. So our first teacher was from Saudi Arabia. And so, you know, it was just, I mean, that's all we knew. Like, people ask me, oh, are you Sunni or Shia? And I'm like, what? Like, you know, it's like, I have a chia pet. Like, what did you say? Like, I don't understand, right? No, I'm Muslim. I believe in God. I believe in Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam as a messenger. Like, I didn't really understand more to it. And, you know, the analogy that friend of mine, Mike, likes to make is, which I think actually we got from Dr. Jackson, is like a new Muslim is like that nice, clean chalkboard sitting in classroom, and it's like, you know, not untouched, and there's a piece of chalk. Like, everyone wants to pick up that chalk and write on it, you know? And you're very impressionable as a new Muslim. So, like, someone tells you this is Islam, you're like, all right, that's Islam. Like, sami'na wa ata'na, you know, I hear and I obey. Like, I want to be a true believer. Like, I want to follow. And that's why, you know, I have a lot of sympathy frankly, you see these converts sometimes fall, like John Walker Lynn and stuff, like fall into bad situations.
Yeah.
And you're like, misguided intentions. Like
heart goes out to
they
them,
didn't know any better. Frankly, I don't. Sometimes they do, but I think a lot of times they're so impressionable, and someone told them this is Islam, and you're like, all right, like
Yeah, and I think there's different components in their psyche that's missing, that they're kind of that most regular people, to say people of who are compos mentis, I think mentally fit people who they have they kind of overcompensate on certain levels of their personality, and they use like the religion to kind of they try to wrap up every single aspect of their lives around it. It's like they walk around with this blanket of Islam all over them. And when you brought up John Walker Lynn, that image kind of came to mind, especially when we talked to Ismail Royer, who spent some time with him in prison.
I remember.
And he talked about he's still kind of like that.
Yeah.
He still hasn't.
Well, it's not going to help when they lock you up in like maximum security prison.
Yeah, that's true. That's
solitary. Like, yeah. But anyway, I think I was so fortunate that I always had Mike. Mike was always very level-headed, very smart. He ended up going on to do his PhD in Islamic studies at Princeton, and now he's a professor, I mentioned, and he's an amazing, amazing person, mashallah, like fluent in many languages now, and I owe my life to him basically. But I remember, so 3 months later, 9/11 happens, and I felt so confused because, again, I know those 3 Muslims, and then we got that fourth one was like that teacher from Saudi, and that was like, I'd have arguments with my dad about like, oh, America's a racist country and this and that. My dad, is a very proud Republican. He's like, oh, what country's better than America? I'm like, Saudi Arabia,
Oh, God.
like, so proud, like the Holy Land, like it's like the best, like perfect, like, and I didn't know better, but when I saw 9/11 happen, and I saw Osama bin Laden, I was really confused. I had no idea who he was before that.
Yeah.
And I'm like, wait a second, this dude's got a really long beard. He's got a turban on. He left the dunya to go fight jihad, fi sabilillah, living in these caves in Afghanistan. He's quoting the Quran and Hadith in perfect Arabic. I was like, isn't that like the perfect Muslim? Like, isn't that who we're supposed to be like?
Yeah.
I cried. Like, I was really confused because I'm like, how could, like...
You weren't the only one, man.
Sure.
There's a lot of Muslims, because you see him and he has this very like regal face, right? You almost, it's almost wrong to think, but you almost imagine him as like some kind of saint or someone you imagine in the older books of Muslim history, like one of the rightly guided people, because it's just like he had like a presence to him, and you're like, whoa, wait, he could be wrong, because he just, when it's certain qualities of leaders, they just have that aroma around them, or that very, it's like a gravitating personality, right?
Yeah, I mean, you find it obviously beyond even religious leaders, just like pop stars sometimes have that aroma or something, right? Yeah. Like they can control people almost, like it's very hypnotic.
Yeah.
It's just something they have, a certain power they have.
Yeah.
And unfortunately people use it for evil reasons. May Allah protect us. So I was fortunate that I converted to Islam right before my senior year in Massachusetts. I came to University of Michigan the year after that, and Michigan was great. The Midwest has, I think, by and large, a wonderful Muslim community, very grounded, very well balanced, very family oriented. I mean,
I did the Alam program in Ann Arbor. Yeah.
What year?
I think it was 2000, summer of 2000. So it was before.
Because Mike did the Alam program.
Get out.
Yeah, he did it I think he did it in 2002. 2002, I think.
So I missed him.
You just missed him, yeah.
I was the alumni of 2000,
Small world.
I believe. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. Ann Arbor community, mashallah, it was so awesome living there. we had to stay in the Park Plaza, I think it's called, the Tower
Plaza.
Tower Plaza.
Everyone lived in Tower Plaza. We live in Tower Plaza.
Yeah. So that was cool. Like all the sisters had their rooms, and all the brothers had theirs, and then we'd pray Fajr together, and it was just that. So I had a similar background. I mean, in the sense that you only knew like 3 Muslims. I was born and raised in Arkansas. I also was agnostic, not atheist, but found Islam when I was 16. And that was 1999, 2000. And went to Arkansas, went to college, only Muslim on campus, you know. So, and that, when you talked about, you know, that zeal that you have when you're a new Muslim.
Yeah.
And you're so innocent. You just don't know, like, you know, you just want to believe and just follow. And speaking of that, like, it reminded me of, so I would like go on the internet and like find Muslims to talk to. And there was this brother I was talking to, and he started telling me about Islam. He was like in these chat rooms, and I was like really enamored, and I was like, oh, mashallah, brother, like, you know, teach me more or something. And then he starts telling me some weird stuff that I didn't know was weird at first, but and I was like, are you Sunni or Shia? Like, that was like the first question. Are you Sunni or Shia? And he's like, oh, I'm Muslim. I don't believe in labels. I'm Muslim. I'm like, okay. Yeah, I don't believe in labels either. That's not cool. Like, you know?
Yeah.
And then he started telling me like Aisha radiallahu anha, you know, like she was such a bad woman, you know, like all this stuff. And then he was like, you know, sister, we could do this thing called muta. And I'm like, what's muta? Tell me more, you know, right? And so I used to chat with everybody because I was
Sim,
like,
what were you thinking, bro?
Oh boy.
I know. So I used to chat with everybody. So I started telling others, I was like, yeah, there's this brother. He's like telling me about this thing called muta. And they're like, stay away from him. He is Shia. That's haram. I was like, okay, I don't. I mean, like I could have gotten trapped in that.
Yeah.
You know.
And imagine that was 1999 internet or 2000 internet. Like, internet's way more advanced now. Like, moves much faster, and it's so easy to like entrap people, or trick people. I mean, it's crazy.
Prey on innocent, you know.
Yeah. I mean, we could go on a long tangent on that. But anyway, you know, Michigan was great because amazing MSA, amazing Muslims, imams all over. Dr. Jackson and Abdul Hakim or Sherman Jackson was our professor there, and like the you know, our anchor on campus. And
was that Ali Suleiman Ali?
Yeah, Sheikh Ali.
Oh
yeah,
my God,
man.
love him. He was so. Oh my God.
He's still in Canton, you know.
Love
mashallah.
that guy.
He's like, that's, you know. So alhamdulillah, that helped me really get more acquainted with traditional Islam, and I think you know, Islam as it's taught by the Prophet ﷺ as best as I can understand it. But I was doing engineering. So like when I went to school, because I want to relate this back to Launchgood, and that's kind of why we're here, is, you know, I went to school, I did engineering, you know, alhamdulillah, Allah blessed me with good math skills and such. So it's like, I'm good at math, I should do engineering. I did very well at engineering, started working at Intel, and, you know, crushing into Intel is like in California. And it was just like, and we had this project, we ended up, I was doing industrial operations, we ended up saving Intel like millions of dollars on this thing, and like feeling all proud. And then like the next day, it's like, come back to my cubicle at 8 a.m. Just like sit there, and I'm like, did I really like become Muslim, do all this crazy stuff, and now I'm just like sitting in a cubicle? Like, it didn't feel right. Like, I didn't want my life to be this.
Yeah.
And I felt like I could do so much more. And I think, you know, upon reflection, a big reason I felt that way was because of Malcolm X. That, you know, I was so enamored by him, and one of the things that enamored me is the legacy he left behind. I mean, he's been dead, Allah yarhamu, for like 50 years. Yeah.
Right.
Yet every year I meet people who become Muslim from his autobiography. Like, every year it affects so many people.
Yeah.
And he left this just tremendous legacy. And it's like, well, what am I doing? Exactly. Right? And what am I doing for the Muslim community? What am I doing for the world? And so that, you know, led me to make a decision that, no, I wanted my professional career to be one of service. And so I went back, I got a master's in educational leadership at Michigan, with intention. I want to open up my own school one day. I started working in a boarding school in New England, like one of these fancy boarding schools. And that was a great job, and it freed up my summers, so I was able to learn Arabic and kind of master that. And then I helped start an Arabic institute called Fawaki.
Oh, I took Fawaki classes.
Yeah, okay, there you go. So Saif Omar was my roommate in Tower Plaza.
Omar Bobo?
Not Omar Bobo, Saif Omar.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
Saif Omar.
You guys should get him on your podcast. Yeah. So Saif Omar, he's in D.C. now.
Is he the founder of Fawaki?
He's the founder of Fawaki. Yeah. So he was my roommate initially in Michigan, and so I was helping him get that going. And then another friend of mine from college, his name is Sultan Sharif. He's a filmmaker. He had this film called Bilal's Stand, and he asked me to move out to Michigan and, kind of co-found this production company that was going to be like our movie studio. We're going to produce, ethical movies for the mainstream and it's called Beyond Blue Productions. And I was 25, and I was like, what do I have to lose? I don't have a lot to lose. And I packed up my car with everything I owned, and I drove, from Massachusetts, April 1st, 2010, and started going to Michigan. So then that movie we had, Bilal's Stand, did really well. It ended up going to Sundance, which is like your dream come true as an independent filmmaker. Except now we need to leverage that. Like, we got to sell DVDs and get like distribution deals, and like we got to monetize it. Like, we can't let this momentum go. But we were broke, the whole like starving artist thing, like that was totally us. And a friend of ours from New York is like, hey, check out this new website called Kickstarter.
I was going to say Kickstarter.
Yeah. And so as far as I know, we were the first Muslims to use Kickstarter.
Really?
Yeah, in 2010. And alhamdulillah, we had a very successful campaign. I fell in love with it. I mean, it's a good match for my personality as someone who's a bit of a connector and an influencer. Like, those are the two qualities you need to do crowdfunding well. But beyond that, I saw the influence Kickstarter and the impact it's having on the creative community. So, for example, these guys had an idea for a watch that could sync with your phone. And they went to 100 VCs and no one would fund them. And they went to Kickstarter and they raised $10 million. That was the Pebble watch. Yeah, it was like the first smartwatch called Pebble Watch.
Yeah.
And from that, we've got the Apple Watch and Samsung Gear and all that stuff.
Right.
Like, by, these kids in their garage that were like rejected by the powers that be, but the people themselves funded them. Right. And after that got funded, I mean, some stuff were already happening on Kickstarter, but after that got funded, you saw a lot of entrepreneurs, a lot of creative people like feeling the confidence, feeling empowered to go forward and like, hey, I've had this dream forever. Like, I've wanted to make this play or do this movie or this or that. And it was that mindset that really inspired me to start Launchgood. Because when I became Muslim, something I noticed quickly was how Muslims, by and large, are stuck in a victim mindset.
Yes.
Right? I mean, you got to manage it. Again, the first Muslims I knew were Malcolm X, Mike and Art Carrington. Like, those are all like pretty strong,
I'll never
confident
forget
Muslims.
those names though.
Yeah. Like, I was, the great role model to start. But then, like, you start going everywhere and you realize like Muslims are like just really stuck in this victim mindset. So an example of that, I was in Jordan studying Arabic. I'm in a taxi. And the guy's like, oh, where are you from? And it's like, okay, I'm American. He's like, oh, America. It's like, this, like, cause all the problems in the world, and Yahud and Israel, Shaitan. It's like, it's like everything's everyone's problem, right?
Right.
And then goes off from Maghrib. I'm like, hey, why don't we stop and pray at the masjid? And he's like, you go pray, I'm going to smoke. Right? And that's like exactly captures, I think, our situation as Muslims today, that we're not, yes, we have enemies. That's the nature of the world. There are going to be people that are always going to try to stop what you're doing. But we have agency at the same time. We have the ability to do something good for ourselves, for our community, as small as it might be. And I thought, like, what I've seen with Kickstarter, I'm like, maybe I could bring that mentality of agency back into the Muslim community. It's not like there's something in our genes that prevent it from being there. Like, we are the people that built Alhambra Palace. We are the people that invented algebra, modern medicine, like so many of the great things we talk about in the past.
Right.
But talk is cheap. Like, what are we doing today?
Yeah.
In Launchgood, we talk a lot about building an inspired future. So we are inspired by our past, but we don't want to get lost in that. What are we building today? That's the question. So that was, more or less the inspiration for Launchgood. Then I did this incubator program in Detroit under Dan Gilbert, who's like our local billionaire, I guess. From that, I got an angel investor, amazing brother. His name is Haris Ahmed. And I, got some developers in Pakistan. And
Haris and Shireen?
Yes. Yeah, you probably know them from Alim.
Yep.
They helped start Alim. I'm really amazing people.
Yeah.
Every time I meet one of her friends who went to the Alim program, everyone turned out pretty well. They're all, very active, and seems like your
Alim program's churning out some solid people.
I think there's a good lesson in there. I mean, to go on a tangent.
Yeah.
If we were to see the 1999 or 2000 Alim program today, we maybe scoff at it. We're like, oh, this little thing, like some students with the local imam, Sheikh Ali Sulaiman Ali, and a professor, what are they doing? What is this?
Right.
But there's barakah in that.
There was
a lot of blessing in it.
Yeah.
And the thing about barakah is it lasts and lasts and lasts. I just, alhamdulillah, made the Hajj, and you have millions of people walking between Safa and Marwa. Why? Because some woman in the desert walked between it a little bit, but she had barakah in her walk.
Right.
And from that, civilization
I got
poured forth,
chills. Yeah.
So, yeah. A lot of barakah in that program, and
absolutely.
the sincerity of people, and it's a good reminder for us. We, as big as we get, as successful as we might feel, how sincere are we in our work?
Yeah.
It's something we always struggle with. Launchgood is remind ourselves of what are our intentions? Why are we doing this?
They were kind of like the mini Al Maghrib, right? Yeah. And they actually brought Imam Siraj Wahaj to come speak for us, and I called my dad. I was like, "There's this amazing speaker." He was like, "Buy all his tapes." I bought $250 worth of cassette tapes, and some of them were duplicates.
Wow.
I was just grabbing, and
someone needs to digitize those. You need to have a madmamluks side podcast.
Were those Siraj Wahaj?
Yes.
Yeah. He used to sell those by himself alone.
Yeah, I know.
He would set up a little stand or somewhere, and
I bought them all.
And he wouldn't charge any. He wouldn't charge anyone these royalty fees. What's it called? Those what are those speaker fees called? Honorariums.
Yeah.
Mashallah. Back then he would fly out by himself and all over the country, single-handedly helping every community. May Allah bless him and help him in all these difficult times.
I was brought out somewhere to speak, and they're like, oh, mashallah, brother Chris, thank you. You're so easy to work with. I'm like, I didn't do anything special. They're like, oh yeah, but sometimes our speakers have all these requests, and they're very sensitive and picky, and this. I'm like, subhanAllah, think about these guys like Imam Siraj Wahaj. They used to drive places, sleep in their cars. They didn't get honorariums. SubhanAllah, we're kind of a little bit spoiled, I think.
Yeah, for sure.
Incredible.
Yeah.
And it just, do you struggle at all with that in terms of where we were at in 98, 2000, where a lot of our teachers, kind of did it majority. They worked for scraps. They didn't really. They were really just paying for their expenses, and they weren't really for profit. Did you struggle with that with Launchgood in terms of how you wanted to organize it?
No, alhamdulillah. I think one is very organic in Launchgood. We just started we didn't know what we were doing. We're obviously we can't pay ourselves salaries. Whatever money we were earning, we just put right back into developing the website, because myself and my co-founders, Amani Kalawi and Omar Hamid, none of us are web developers. Omar is a designer, so he can do the front end, but none of us are coders. Can't do the back end.
So you guys
we always had to pay people.
Okay.
We couldn't get that for free.
Gotcha.
We could do a lot of the other stuff we'd get for free. So for the first 3.5 years, basically the only people paid were the developers of the website. It wasn't until last year, about 16 months ago, I started paying myself, even though I'm the founder, right?
Yeah.
And maybe some people are surprised. I think if there's people who have started their own organizations listening, or startup founders, they're not surprised at all. This is basically how it goes. And you need to lead by example.
So you had another job.
Yeah, several
paying the
jobs.
bills?
Several jobs. Yeah, I mean, so I was very fortunate to have another startup that alhamdulillah has done well, and it's just going to be too long to get into. But I just have another startup that's done well, so that's my main thing. Keep me going. My wife used to work before we had kids. I still do a little educational consulting here and there. So alhamdulillah, Allah provides. Like it's been a miracle, really, when I think about it. But yeah, we're able to convince really, really. I mean, that's basically my job, is convince incredibly talented people.
How many people are you at now?
We're around, it's just shy of 20 people now 20. Across the world. So in 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 countries.
So
wow.
For the people on YouTube watching, they can see our screen on the main screen where we got Launchgood. The website. Now, when you go on the website, there's a lot of campaigns, right? Right away, you see a whole bunch of campaigns. How are these? Do people have to pay extra money to be on the front page of Launchgood, or who gets to be in the front?
Yeah, I mean, it depends what's going on. I mean, especially if something is very sensitive, like the Hurricane Florence. I mean, that's like a very sensitive thing. We won't charge for that. Sometimes if it's a different campaign, we may charge. It all depends on the campaign. The ones that are featured or trending down below, those are not paid. And those are there because they are ones that just organically have a lot of traction.
I think my Launchgood made it
over
there. I was so excited. We were cheering. We're like, we made it.
So for the listeners who don't know, Naureen has an organization called SEMA, which is Support, Embrace, Empower Mental Advocacy.
Mental health advocacy.
And you're basically, you just started about a few months ago?
Yeah, pretty much launched. We launched last year, November, with Altaf Hussein came and spoke, but we didn't start the work really till January. So it's only 8-9 months old, and
you could pull that one up and maybe search for SEMA.
Yeah, see if you can find it. Yeah, so I mean, I think we raised almost $15,000 in Ramadan. I don't know if that's good or not.
Very good.
That's good?
Yeah, very good. For first time, especially, yeah.
Yeah? Okay.
So what's it, SEMAadvocacy.com?
Just do
I don't
SEMA
know.
Launchgood.
No, he's saying the Launchgood.
But no, it's fine. You do SEMA Launchgood.
Yeah, type SEMA Launchgood.
No, not me. No. Come back.
It's all right.
But yeah, no, we were really nervous. It was our first time doing a Launchgood. We were really excited. Alhamdulillah. I mean, yeah, definitely it's padded our bank account, to get the services out there. We all have day jobs. Me and my sisters, volunteers. We all have our day jobs.
That's it. Yeah.
There it is.
Yeah, there it is. So we're part of Mohsen. Mohsen advocates for disabilities. We're advocating for mental health, and so I think our initial amount was 20 or 25. And Miriam Al-Khatib, Khatib, she was our coach.
Yep.
And so I said to her, I was like, I know that you have to have a certain percent to get featured or something.
In the Ramadan challenge, yep.
Yes.
30%.
So I was like, I don't want to really rig the system, but I kind of want to rig the system. So can I change my amount to 12 or 15? And she was like, yeah, go ahead and change it. So
we're all about go for it. Rig the system. We don't mind.
No,
you
so
think
she was
you're
awesome.
rigging the system, but we're actually getting you to do best practices. We're getting you to take steps to make your campaign the most successful possible.
Yeah.
These people will be like, oh, I want 100,000. All the time we're like, hey, start at 10 or 20 and
increasing it.
Increase it. You have to take realistic steps to get there.
Okay.
Chris, convince me out of this mentality that I have. No, I went on to Launchgood and I set up a campaign for the madmamluks.
You did?
And then I didn't click launch because I felt guilty. I'm like, nope.
Yeah.
There's more other deserving organizations like SEMA and Burma Relief XYZ, and I'm like, madmamluks doesn't deserve it, even though our expenses are out of the astronomical expenses.
We are broke.
Yeah.
And my kids probably won't go to college. They'll have to take out crazy amounts of loans. So
We'll set up a zakat fund for you. No,
yeah, he's like, no, it's fi sabilillah.
Honestly, it's a healthy feeling.
Yeah.
I believe so. Like, even myself, I do launch goods for other people all the time. Like, I just did one for somebody in my community. But if I ever needed to raise money for myself or the company or something, like, Launchgood has never done a Launchgood for Launchgood. Right? Like, it's just something you feel like this shyness, this haya. Yeah. So that's good. I think that's a good quality, because Muslims should have this sort of iffa or izzah, like this self-reliance when and where possible.
Yeah.
But at the same time, there are certainly efforts that do need that funding that couldn't exist without the support of others. And what I tell people is, like, would you, if it was your friend's organization and they were doing it, would you be like appalled, or would you be supportive? Like, would you be actually grateful for the opportunity to support them or not? If you would be grateful for the opportunity to support your friend, then you should give them that opportunity to support you. So if you really, but you have to believe it's a good cause. Like, that belief has to be there. And then you have to understand that you're giving people that opportunity to share in the khair and the barakah. One of my teachers from Morocco, his name is Sheikh Abdessalam Yassin, rahimahullah. He wrote a letter to one of his students, Sheikh Sidi Munir Regragui is his name. And he was he really wanted to go to Hajj, Sidi Munir Regragui. He really wanted to go to Hajj. And then someone came to him and was like, I want to pay for you to go to Hajj. And he never asked anybody. He didn't say anything. But then he felt like this guilt, like, I'm supposed to go to Hajj, like it's a farad, but I feel like I should be paying for my own money.
Yeah.
And so he went to his teacher, Sheikh Abdessan Messin, and he wrote him a letter. And he wrote a letter back and he said, the best Hajj that you can make is one where you let someone pay for it.
Really?
Because then they get to share in the barakah of what you're doing without diminishing your reward. So there are times we have that feeling, but at the same time, if you're giving people a chance to share in the barakah, it's a good thing.
Yeah.
But in general, I think it's a healthy skepticism of yourself.
Yeah. Yeah. And
I think like you should, we'll ask the users, but like, if you think the Mad Mamluks should do a Launchgood to help them invest more in what they're doing here and improve it and expand it, then let us know. I don't know, where do they let you know? Comments, Twitter?
Yeah, we have a donate page on our main website, www.themadmamluks.com. But that was not a plea for money.
He's trying to get your listeners to tweet at you and say, yes, do a Launchgood.
Oh, okay. Oh,
like we need a minimum of 10 people to tweet that, like, yes, do a Launchgood. Then we'll take it seriously. If they don't tweet, then maybe it's not the right time.
Yeah. Yeah. At the Mad Mamluks on Twitter. So go ahead and let us know. Maybe we'll throw up a poll on there as well.
The other thing, one more thing I want to say about that is the essence of Launchgood. So go back to our homepage.
Yeah.
I tell people, when it comes to Launchgood, don't think of us as a crowdfunding platform. Think of us as an inspiration platform. And every campaign we have on Launchgood is actually a chapter in the storybook of all the good that Muslims are doing and capable of doing across the world. So if you guys have that campaign for Mad Mamluks, it's not just for yourself. It's actually laying a template for people to follow. Like, there might be somebody over in Kenya that's been thinking about doing a podcast and they have no idea where to start. And they're like, how would I even get the equipment or this or that? And then they see your Launchgood campaign and they resonate with your story and they see like, wow, you guys also had no idea what you're doing initially. Yeah. And you've done this and that, and they may connect with you. They may get your advice, because there's ways, like we try to facilitate communication as well. Yeah. Between supporters and the campaign creators.
So where you wanted me to go?
No, just in general, like if you scroll up to the campaign cards, scroll left, down a little. Mm-hmm. Like here, just scroll to the right. Like, look at all the different stuff we got, like, Islam in Japan and building a masjid in Louisiana and scholarships for Muslim women and we have like an app, and we have something for the Uyghurs, you know, the people in the Uyghur Muslims in prison in China, supporting students of knowledge, solar panels in Gaza,
you know, sadly,
artwork.
It's almost like a news feed. It's almost like,
yeah,
you know, I mean, this is kind of like the situation of the Muslims around the world, like
an inspirational news feed.
Yeah, an inspirational where you can actually not only read what's going on about various communities around the world, but actually
how many campaigns do you think are running right now on Launchgood?
Guess.
Yeah, guess.
At least 500 maybe.
No, I'd say thousands.
Well, I wish thousands, but it's about 500.
Oh wow.
Oh wow.
Yeah, and I mean, alhamdulillah, today is exactly our 5-year birthday.
Holy cow.
It used to be like in our first year, we may at times only have 1 or 2 campaigns live on the website.
No way.
Yeah.
Wow.
1 or 2. And it was like pulling teeth, try to convince people to do campaigns.
Yeah.
Now, alhamdulillah, every day dozens of people from like literally across the world apply with campaigns.
That's awesome.
It's really amazing.
So how do you guys make money in this? You guys take a certain percentage?
Yeah, we collect about 5% of the money raised online.
Okay.
We're very transparent about that. It's an industry standard, alhamdulillah. And we let donors cover those fees as well.
Cool.
Right.
So a lot of times, like I think in your campaigns for SEMA, I don't know what your final fees were, but I'm sure even less than credit card fees, like 1 or 2% max, probably what you paid.
Yeah.
That's awesome. Yeah, I mean, people don't realize like there's customer support and all kinds of other salaries that go into maintaining these websites. It's not.
So he has a really great setup. So we had a coach. So they assign you a coach, and they kind of help you come up with ways to promote your Launchgood, your campaign. And they give you all these tips on how to do it on social media and all this stuff. And then when I think Miriam reached out to me a few times. She was like, do you need any coaching? You know, I see you're at this % or whatever. And I was so busy. And then finally I was like, okay, I need to talk to you. Like, that's when I was talking about rigging the system. And so she was like, can I just do a quick 5-10 minute call with you? And it is free. Like, it's, you know, I'm here for you. So that was really nice. And then once I got on the phone with her, it was so nice to know that I had a partner. You know, I don't know what I'm doing. I work in finance. I'm not a marketing person. You know, I hate asking people for money. Yeah. I hate bugging all my friends on Facebook and WhatsApp. And like, it's annoying. You know, I don't want to be that person, but I didn't know what to do. And so having that person to kind of coach me was really nice. And then So then the next step that she offered, she said, we have a social media marketer, digital marketing analyst. So she was like, I'll put you in touch with her if you're interested. Or she just sent it off to her. And then so Farah reached out and said, you can invest, let's say $500, and I'll do all the Facebook marketing for you. And if you raise 500 or more, you know, then you pay the 500. But if you don't reach that $500, we'll pay you back the difference.
Yeah, it's a guarantee.
Yeah, so that was, I was like, okay,
probably
there's
did
nothing.
Well, I think, right?
Yeah, there was nothing to lose. I mean, we were at the tail end of Ramadan at that point, so I think we did get a little refund from you guys. But it was nice that we had that refund, you know. So I really liked your approach. You guys are willing to work with you, the people who are doing their campaign. You're there as partners. You're and then you offer the tools, and then that guarantee.
I'm like embarrassed here. Like, I don't want to sound like an infomercial for Launchgood. So I'm sure, like, you know, alhamdulillah, I think people can hear that Launchgood, we really take the crowdfunding seriously, and we're really, really good at it. Like, it's definitely blows all the other platforms out of the water. And so if people are interested, they can contact me. But I think there's a lot more interesting stuff going on that we could talk to. But
you know what, Chris? I talk to a lot of people who want to do a lot of great work, and I'm curious from your perspective. I remember before me and Sheikh Amr were kind of discussing the Madmamluks and how we're going to get it started. I would listen to a lot of like motivational podcasts, like a lot of stuff from Tim Ferriss, and then even once I heard another Muslim podcast out of Australia. Their name was called.
Oh yeah, I was on that podcast.
What's her name?
With the two girls.
Yeah, with the Maheen and.
You good memory.
Oh God, I can't
Yeah.
remember.
Maheen.
Yeah, it was a different. It was a female Maheen.
Female Maheen.
Yeah.
Wow. Because we've got
something-
the male.
Something Muslim.
Bad Muslim, good
no,
Muslim.
No. They're not.
But yes,
Muslims.
yeah.
No. But anyway, Hamza Sources was on their show, and he was
Okay.
like, you know what? If you want to do something, just aim in that general direction. And and you know what reminded me of that was when you were talking about how after you left Intel, you just kind of went in that direction. You didn't know about Launchgood happening or anything, but you just kind of took that step and went back to school and went. You wanted to do more. You felt like there was more to do and to give back to the community. So tell other people, because I always get this question: based on your experience with talking with a lot of different young Muslims wanting to contribute back to the community, what advice would you give them?
Yeah, it's a really great question, and one I'm more comfortable talking about. You know, when I was going through that transition, or the decision about Intel and engineering versus this other path, my friend Mike gave me a book by Ibn Ata'illah, and one of the things he says in there is that tawakkul is the greatest form of iman.
Yeah.
Like putting your trust in God is the greatest expression of faith in God.
Mm-hmm.
Because it's easy to say like I believe in God. It's really hard to be like I believe in God, and I don't know why I'm going this way, but I'm falling into your arms,
Submitting.
metaphorically, God,
Yeah.
right? Like it's scary.
Pure submission.
It is pure submission.
Yeah.
Like the hadith, like if you truly believe in God, you'd be like the birds that fly out in the morning and come back with a full stomach, so it starts, I think definitely the journey is going to start with that. And you also have to know that there's going to be tests, like a lot of tests. And we've had a lot of tests. When we started, I mentioned I wasn't making any money. I didn't know what I was doing. I was just like, this is something I believed in. I saw a future for this.
Yeah.
But I didn't have, we tried to get venture funding. No, people are like, who would, what? I've never heard of a successful Islamic startup, right? So we couldn't get any money, and we're like, screw it, let's just do it. And then we had all the problems with our developers overseas, taking 18 months to build this platform. When we launched it, the very first campaign we had this horrendous bug in it, where it's funny now. I mean, we can laugh about it, but on the day it tipped, which is the last day of the campaign, it was by Sister Nadine Abu Jabara and Zainab Ismail, and it's for something called Naduna. It's like this women's hijabi fitness thing. Yeah, so they're like our first real campaign. Zainab, who's a friend of mine, she's with me, also made Hajj this year, alhamdulillah.
Oh, mashallah.
So we, like I said, we laugh about it now.
She has such an amazing story too.
Yeah, but she's also a tough New Yorker.
Yeah.
So she's about business, right? So Nadine's a good old friend of mine, so Nadine wanted to use this, but Zainab was like, no, who are these guys? We're not going to be their guinea pig, and we're going to use Kickstarter.
Oh. And
Kickstarter, for some reason that never was clear to me, rejected their campaign.
Wow.
And they had all this they'd done all this pre-marketing of we're releasing our crowdfunding campaign on Sunday or whatever. And I was they can't. So they came to me, they're like, okay, we'll use Launchgood, but you got to be able to launch now. And the website was kind of ready, but not exactly. We're go, right? And and everything was actually going pretty well. And on the last day of the campaign, it was all or nothing, which means in that case, donors are only charged if it hits its goal of $15,000.
Why would anyone do all or nothing?
Well, because the pressure is so much higher, so you actually work harder and you're more successful. All or nothing campaigns do better than your SEMA campaign. If 20,000 was your goal, it's all or nothing. You're at 14,000. I guarantee you will find that $6,000. You will find it. Yeah.
Oh, wow.
Anyway, it's high pressure. It's not for everybody. But they were doing all or nothing. And on that last day, they got to 15,000. The first problem we noticed is everyone's credit card got charged twice.
Oh boy.
So I don't know why. So anyway, we're like, okay, that was not as bad as it sounds. There's a way to manually go through each donor and like refund them one charge.
Yeah.
It's tedious. People are emailing us. Why did I get charged twice? We're like, don't worry, we're on it. And so we're fixing that. And then we noticed something else. That every time someone, like the total was under 15,000. We're like, wait, I thought I hit this goal. And we're watching it. Every time someone donated, instead of adding up, it was subtracting down. So it would say like 14,000. In reality, they had 16,000. And then someone donates 100 and it says like 13,900.
What?
Although who knows why, right? I mean, just like this is what happens when you do start.
My God.
So it's like right away, like we're like right. It's kind of like you.
These guys are charlatans.
Yeah. Oh my God. Like
milking the community.
It was
for
like
everything.
you cast off on your like maiden voyage and like you don't even make it out of the harbor. You start sinking right away, right? And then, I mean, so that was like you can imagine. Dealing with Zainab after that, she was not happy at all. But again, alhamdulillah, we laugh about today.
But she got her money, right?
They actually, in a way, it worked really well for them because what was happening, someone would see they're at like 14,000, like, oh, they're so close, like here's $1,000, like it dropped to 13,000. So we would have to there was a way we could manually control it, so we'd like put it back up to like 17,000, but then someone would donate and it drop again.
Yeah.
Like so like this thing kept going back and forth, so they actually in a way it worked well for them. They raised like $18,000 or $19,000, but it was definitely a big headache. So a few months after that we had another guy, Bassem Rashidi, amazing brother out of Los Angeles. He also had left his corporate career to start this Nasheed career, and he was doing his album, My Heaven album, on Launchgood. I remember it well. And he had a big concert, and he's like, I'm going to have all these, making postcards with a link to donate, and I'll encourage all these people to donate. And it's like, we're really gearing up for this big weekend. And at that time, our developers still in Pakistan, much love to Pakistan. And they had done some little change on the website before the work week ended, like right before they left. And the donate button was like grayed out. So you could put in all your credit card information, everything, but you couldn't hit donate. And then they left. And then we had two developers. One of them went camping, like in the woods. There's no reception.
Oh my God.
And the other one's father passed away, so he had to go like to his village. Like again, no reception. So 3 days is complete silence on their end, and no one could donate on the website. We only have one job: let people give money on the website. Like that's our job.
Yeah.
And like no one could do it. And Bassem had the biggest concert, and he's really counting on that moment. And we're like, can you just get their email addresses and contact them Monday? like it is such a simple problem, but like we couldn't fix it ourselves.
What happened?
That's it. Like the weekend, nothing, no donations. And then after they came back, they fixed it. And so that was kind of for me the straw that broke the camel's back.
Were you like no more overseas developers?
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes. Although now we do have one, and they're amazing, Doozy Lab. So if you need really good and affordable developers, let me know. I'll connect you. Really
awesome.
That's a problem. You just don't know who you're dealing with.
Exactly. Right.
And I was such a rookie. I had no idea what I was doing.
Yeah.
That's not the case anymore.
It's happened to me too. I work with more graphic designers from overseas, and I got burned by people who charge an exorbitant amount of money, and then talk to people who are who charge half as much and do twice as better of a job,
Yeah.
So what would you say is the best time to ask for just set up? I mean, everyone says like Ramadan or bust. Like if I'm not going to launch a campaign in Ramadan, I might as well just wait till next Ramadan.
Well, honestly, you should raise money when you need it the most.
Mm-hmm.
Nothing will motivate you like need, right?
Yeah.
So it's when that opportunity arises, when you need it, great. If it's all the same, of course, Ramadan's the best.
Yeah.
Like as a charity, if you're raising money for a movie, do not do it in Ramadan. Like that is not this is just reality.
Yeah,
like
people just don't
games, apps, movies, that sort of stuff. They're not. No one wants to give money to that in Ramadan.
What's the second best month?
Dhul Hijjah. The 10 days of Dhul Hijjah. Yeah.
Missed that
And then
too.
after that, there's tricks like your birthdays are great. Like doing something around your birthday is really good. Right, because then it's like, hey, for my birthday.
That's the new Facebook thing.
Facebook.
Everybody's doing it.
So you just look for like different excuses to motivate people to give. But the main thing is ask for money when it's most appropriate, like when you most need it. And it's, you know, things arise. Like and it doesn't have to be for yourself. I mean, I think that's like a thing I really want to make clear. There's a brother in my community, recently out of prison, but he's got skills. Like he's first in Hamid became Muslim in prison, very good Muslim. And he's married and he is a panel wire. So he is able, like he has an actual trade that he can work, like get a real job for. But he doesn't have, and he has a car.
Yeah.
But he doesn't have a driver's license because it's suspended, because before he went to jail, he got a ticket and then he was in jail.
Oh my God.
And so that's like almost $500 with all the fees added on stuff. And that may not seem like so much for us, but for someone like him, like who lives off $60 a month for groceries, that's a fortune. That's literally 8 months of groceries, right?
Yeah.
And I just was like, you know what? This wouldn't be hard. And I just asked my friends. I set up a little Launchgood. In 19 minutes, we raised over like $900 or something.
Oh, okay. Yeah.
And it was really easy. Like it's not Ramadan. It's not Dhul Hijjah. But it's the right time. Like it's appropriate.
Yeah.
And it's changed this guy's life.
Isn't there like something I've heard people say, like for people who are like low income and they're, you know, depending on welfare or whatever, doing these kinds of things is actually detrimental because then they lose all those benefits. If you do, I'm talking thousands of dollars, tens of thousands of dollars, you know, not 900, but.
Yeah, it could be like in some of these cases where they raise like hundreds of $1,000s.
Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, those would probably be the exception than the rule. Like, I don't know exactly the rules around welfare. The government doesn't classify it as income. So I don't think it's classified as a gift.
Oh, okay.
So I don't believe it should impact that, but that's not my expertise.
Okay. Yeah. Okay. Then also speaking of the government stuff. So when it comes to, you know, if you're a nonprofit and you're doing a Launchgood, how do you guys help facilitate getting the like end of the year, you know,
we do
tax deduction?
If you're a nonprofit, there is a place for you to add in your tax ID and such as you set up your Launchgood campaign.
Oh, okay.
So every time someone donates to you and you have that information in there, their receipt includes a tax ID number, all the information that they'll need for their taxes. We also, on their profile page or on your profile page, you can download a spreadsheet of all your tax deductible donations
that you've done like in that year or whatever.
So we make it really easy for donors that way.
Awesome.
Yeah.
Awesome. Cool.
So you guys asked so many technical questions. I was expecting like deeper questions. You know, what's going on with the global digital Islamic economy, or what's
go ahead.
You know, what are the challenges with social
we got
media?
All night, man. So what is going on?
Well, you talked about like, you know, about being like a news feed, but digitally, like what's going on?
There's a new era we're kind of entering, and it's a very exciting time. It's still very premature, where Muslims are like, I mean, I guess the phases were, if you look at, and this is generalization, but we're going to go with it. In general, like the Muslim world and like the Western world were very kind of far apart, right? So like you could be in America and have all sorts of conveniences, and then you go, you know, or even you could go be in America and have like McDonald's, for example, or find that in Europe, but then you go to Muslim countries, you won't find any of that stuff. And then Muslims kind of caught up and they started importing these like Western icons, like McDonald's, Starbucks, this, that. But we don't have any of our own icons, right?
Yes.
And now we're starting to build those. And so it's starting to catch on, right? But examples that, like, you know, in the West you have Tony Robbins, right? Like this motivational speaker, has all this great stuff. Gary Vee, you have all these different ones that are doing it. Now we have like Productive Muslim with Muhammad Faris, who's actually really, really good, and he knows his stuff. Yeah, he's on the podcast. So you used to you know, you have American Girl and Barbie dolls, And now you have Salam Sisters by Peter Gould and
Oh my
Zalige,
God, love Peter Gould.
right?
Yeah.
I think he was just on Boys in the Cave.
Yeah, he was
Yeah.
just on Boys in the Cave. Now, before you had, NPR podcasts and Planet Money, and now we have Mad Mamluks, right? So, like, things are starting to come out where you find it has, I don't know what the...
Muslim flavor.
Not just that, but
It's not
doing it really well.
That's what I'm saying. That's what it's good. Like people are really trying to do it with ihsan.
Yes.
Like I got actually Peter Gould's Salam Sisters. I got their Miriam doll for my Miriam.
Yeah.
And I was like, wow, like this is like
quality stuff.
I can't believe it's real. Like it's like in a proper package. It's got
Right.
accessories and it's got stories and
Yes.
it's really done well.
Yes.
And I've never you don't see that.
Yes.
It's when I was growing up and I saw the way, I don't like to poop on the immigrant community, but the thing is, there was very simple things would make them happy. Okay, and it's not necessarily a fault of theirs. It's just
That's
growing
just how
up,
it was, yeah.
growing up in poverty that they didn't see the benefits of high quality productions and things like that. So, but when we as children of immigrants were growing up, we see that kind of quality being associated with the religion, and we're like, what, this is kind of backwards.
Yes.
And you end up losing a little, even though it's not active, it's just somewhere in the subconscious, you're kind of losing a little bit of respect for your religion, because you're like, these people, they're not very educated. They get happy with black and white Xerox copies of flyers, and they don't want to put much effort behind whatever.
Typos are acceptable.
Yeah.
So, and I think one of the biggest credit, an organization I give the most credit to for kind of breaking out of that shell was Al Maghrib Institute.
Yeah.
And they really, at least in Chicago,
their marketing stuff, their flyers,
out of this world.
Their booklets, yeah.
They kind of really were the first, and young guy too, Muhammad al-Sharif. He was probably one of the youngest scholars at that time, who was easily very relatable to youth, and came out of that whole Tony Robbins, culture of success, and he killed it. I mean. And everyone followed suit. They're like, what? If they can do it, we could do it. And they found every other organization from across the spectrum of religious, whether you're Deobandi or Sufi or whatever, they all followed suit, and they ended up, breaking out of that cycle.
The example I like to give
quality.
is halal burgers.
Yeah.
So when I became Muslim in 2001. It's like someone's like, "Hey, you want a halal burger?" I'm like, "Oh yeah, that sounds great." And then it's like
homemade.
It's like kafta, and I'm like, "What the heck?" I'm like, "Oh, what is this?"
That's
right?
not a burger. That's what my mom did to trick us when we wanted burgers from McDonald's. She's like, "No, I'll make you your burger," and it tastes like a big kebab.
And now, at least I don't know how it's here, but in Dearborn in Michigan, it's like halal burgers. People are like dying for them. They're like, they're the best thing, And even recognize, like, non-Muslims recognize halal burgers as a thing. Like, it's really good burgers.
Halal pepperoni pizza, wings are my thing.
Halal wings.
Oh my God.
So we can change that perception, but we change it through quality.
Yeah.
Like, we have to, Zalige is making these awesome dolls. They're not making a ton of money. Right? But if they're consistent, the tastes of the Muslim market will start to change, and they'll start to trust them, because there's still an inherent distrust. Like, people look at Launchgood and they're like, "Oh, like, it can't be that good. It's a Muslim website."
Yeah.
And they might use other websites, and then they're like, "Whoa, like we actually happens all the time on Launchgood. Someone will use us, and they do really well. I don't want to give examples because it might embarrass somebody, and then they'll use like GoFundMe or Indiegogo or something different. And they'll come back to us like, "Wow, you guys are way better." I'm like, "Yeah," it's like, I know, right? But it was this kind of this inferiority complex we have sometimes that assumes that if it's an Islamic website or an Islamic doll or an Islamic self-empowerment course, that it must be inferior in some way.
Yeah.
And the only way we're going to change that is with quality. And probably the best example you will see today is the Ertugrul series. And you guys are huge fans of it.
Huge fans.
Before Ertugrul, if we're like, "Hey, let's watch this Muslim soap opera on Netflix," you'd be like, I
no
don't think
thanks.
so.
Yeah.
Right? Like, I'm going to go watch House of Cards, right?
Dude, just getting myself to watch it because my brother was telling me about Arthur a year before it even came out, before I started watching it. I'm like, no. I've seen Muslim production. It's not good. And
The Omar series.
was
Oh
good.
my
God.
The Omar series
Amazing.
was fantastic.
My wife's cousin did it. Shout
Really?
Out to, yeah. Ibrahim Qadri.
Man,
Dearborn,
What?
Pride of Dearborn, yep.
What do you mean he did it?
He was a producer for NBC.
are you kidding me?
Yeah.
Where is it being produced?
Well, they stopped because,
Where was
thank
it
you,
being
Muslim.
produced?
So he was in Dubai. NBC was the company.
Yeah.
And he organized the series and produced it. It was his idea. But they got so many death threats from Muslims themselves
Get out.
What?
that they had to cancel all their future plans. Like, they were going to do all the khulafa and like go into the history and stuff.
Oh my
Unbelievable.
God.
And now he works for Google and
Oh no.
No,
Arabia.
come back.
Yeah.
Do
yeah.
more.
We can make
Shot
we-
ourselves in the foot,
Well,
you know?
dude, we should just.
But
Has he ever heard of Arizona? It practically looks like Mecca.
yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, right. Come back.
So going back to, so you finish what you're saying about Ertugrul, it like took you a year to
it took
even
me a
like
year
try
to
it,
actually,
right?
finally give up on saying no to my brother and actually make the leap.
And it works,
Yeah.
right?
Yeah.
Now the problem is probably missed like the production company for that in Turkey. They're probably still losing money on it.
Mm.
And so the question is like, if we want more shows like Ertugrul Resurrection, or we want like we got a taste of that. Like once I started watching that, like I could never go back to House of Cards. Like so filthy. Like I can't stand it.
Yeah.
Right?
Oh, no.
Yeah.
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 Like if we want more of that, the question is, are we willing to invest as a community?
Yeah.
If we are, like, khalas, we got 1.6 billion people. This is going to
Right.
be easy.
Right.
Honestly, like we vote with our dollars.
Right.
It's that simple.
Yeah.
So yeah, you want.
I mean, Arthur did benefit from the Turkish government helping him out. I mean,
Oh, of course.
that-
I mean, it's clearly also propaganda for Turkish government. That's
Yeah,
another
I mean,
story.
But no,
no,
I mean,
no hate. I mean, everything is
no,
propaganda.
it's just. I'm not trying to say like pro. Yeah, I'm a little bit pro Turkey. I'm not going to deny that, but I'm just saying when you have people who are in power or in authority over you who are genuinely looking for the best interests of Muslims, you're going to have these kind of productions, and I'm hoping something like that comes out of Pakistan with Imran Khan.
That's kind
coming
of true.
I didn't think that could be.
No government, no amount of charity from amount. May Allah bless everyone's charity and everything, but until a government can throw its weight behind any type of production,
Well, honestly, I disagree with that.
you think so?
Because it's
you
not
think,
charity. It's like, let's say Ertugrul Resurrection was doing crowdfunding on Launchgood right now, and they're saying, I don't even know what season
but
they're
that's
on.
millions, man.
Okay, so let's say they're doing an all or nothing campaign,
Okay.
and they're saying, okay, we need your help to fund season 7. Or I don't know what. You know what season they're on?
5 or 6.
All
right,
Five.
so
Yeah,
we want to make
fine.
season 7 because of the economic crisis in Turkey. The government can no longer subsidize this or pay for it, but we're coming to you, the people. If we can raise $30 million, we'll make season 7. And so we're looking for, will you give $30? Would you do it? Would you give $30?
Oh, absolutely, I'd do it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Do you think they could find 1 million people to give $30?
Hopefully, if it's good,
I think they
so.
could.
I think, especially for Arthur World, they could.
Yeah. So there you go. The
Yeah.
people can fund it themselves.
Yeah.
And that's, in the long term, more sustainable. Like, that's what we need. Like, people to think
Yeah.
and act with their dollars.
Mm.
Why don't we all get subscriptions with Al Kamia, which is supposed to be kind of like the Muslim Netflix, or Ali Huda TV, which is like the Muslim kids Netflix, right?
Mhm.
Yeah.
Like, if we start using these services, I know they're not going to be perfect now.
Mhm.
And I'm okay with that. I'm told, like, I get high on my own supply. I support almost everyone I can on Launchgood. I support tons of entrepreneurs doing, starting whatever it is, podcasts or DVD, workout DVDs or whatever it might be on Launchgood, even though I know the quality is not going to be the best yet, because I understand that you need to take stepping stones, but we absolutely have the numbers. We have the economic power.
Yeah.
We just have to realize it and believe in it.
Yeah, absolutely. Especially Muslims living in Canada, Britain, America, Australia. We're living in the the pinnacle of human civilization. I mean, in terms of wealth and having access to things that the richest people in history didn't have access to.
Yes, and it's really interesting you bring that point up.
Yeah,
because we talk about that global Islamic startup scene now. What did you notice about all the startups I've been mentioning? Whether it's Muhammad Faris or Peter Gould or whoever.
We all kind of took a page out of our non-Muslim counterparts.
I noticed that your name is not Muslimified.
Well, okay. That'd be on point. I think the commonality I see is we're all in the West.
Yeah.
Oh yeah, of course, right.
Why? Why? Of course. I mean, there's only 1% of the Muslim population in the West. Like 99% resides in Muslim lands. Like, why aren't we getting more from Muslim lands, quote unquote? India, Pakistan. Like, how come we're not seeing the best Islamic startups out of Pakistan?
They have terrible.
They got the developers. I mean, we have a developer now in Pakistan.
They are for example, when I was there, I saw bad internet, like 3G quality internet.
God. It's not. I don't think it's the internet.
No, I mean they can if they wanted to pay for high quality internet, they can get that. But I'm just seeing them.
I mean, the reason to me, frankly, is because there's a Starbucks on every corner of the world, right? Western hegemony is real. Like, unfortunately, right? Like the West just and especially American hegemony,
absolutely,
culturally speaking,
totally
is huge.
I've experienced that as a content creator. I just met with some people from France who came to Chicago, and they wanted to start up a Mad Mamluks for France, and I was so blown away. I was like incredibly honored and humbled. I'm like, holy cow! Like, how do you even know about us? And they're like, no, we love you, we, and.
And I'll tell you something about that, because I was talking to my teacher, Dr. Jackson, about white privilege, and he's like, so what? Everyone has privilege. Yeah, there's white privilege. Blacks have privilege in certain things. If you go to like Saudi, you're gonna have Arab privilege. You're gonna, there's privilege exists in many different ways. It's not like this black and white thing.
That's so profound.
And it's a responsibility. You don't have to be ashamed you have a certain privilege, but you have to feel the weight of its responsibility. So Muslims in the West, we have this kind of cultural hegemonic privilege. It's just the reality of the world, whether we use it or not. But we can use it for good. We can use it as a way to, I think, bridge this gap between modernity and our Muslim lands in a way that's going to help a lot of people. Like, Ertugrul doesn't just have fans amongst Muslims. That's the other thing. Like, it's become a really popular show on Netflix in and of itself.
We have Latino relatives who are Christian. They're married into our family.
I heard it's really popular with Latinos.
They're huge fans.
Because it's fitra. You know what I mean? And there's still a lot of people that have that fitra alive in their cultures.
They love it.
So we have, I think, as Muslims, this responsibility being in the West, even though we're 1% of that global Muslim population, our influence, our potential for influence is outsized. And we're talking about before how we just don't realize our spending power, our influence that we do have. There's an analogy I like to give is with the flea circus. And we don't really have this anymore. Like, we don't have flea circuses, but like 100 years ago, one of the popular forms of entertainment they travel around was the little flea circus. So you get this tiny little bug, and they could train it to like jump through hoops and do all these things. Like, it's kind of remarkable. Like, how did they do that? Do you guys know how they did it?
No.
Okay. You know?
No.
All right, good. So what they do is they take a flea, they put it in a jar, and they put a lid on the jar.
Flea or fly?
A flea. Fleas.
Oh.
They jump, like they get on the
I have a cat.
Dogs,
Don't
cats.
Yeah. Cat had that.
So fleas, they jump, and normally a flea can jump a few feet on its own. Like, you can jump from the floor up to this table.
Right.
But you put it in the jar. If it jumps that high, what's going to happen to that flea?
It'll hit
his head.
Right.
So that flea will learn after a while, I should only jump 4 inches and no higher than that. And you can take the top off the jar, and that flea will not jump any higher than that. So now you can train it. You can't train a flea that jumps like 3 feet, like it's just out of control, right?
Yeah.
But you can train a flea that jumps 4 inches.
Right.
The interesting thing is, the children of those flea, they only jump 4 inches.
What?
And they've never hit their head. And this is like the Muslim community. You know, we had real, and still in certain places today, we have real restrictions on our community. We're not able to just produce our own TV shows or do our own podcasts or any of this stuff, right? Yeah. But in the West, we don't have those restrictions. We can do whatever we want here. Mm-hmm. But we're like, it's something ingrained in us, like for our parents kind of taught us, even if it wasn't explicit, hey, you can only jump 4 inches high. And we forgot that actually God gave us that ability to jump 3 feet. Mm-hmm. Yeah. And there is no barrier. Like, we can do it. We just got to try.
Yeah. Right.
And so I think the Muslim world is starting to wake up to this. Yeah. And alhamdulillah, you're starting to see it. Like, frankly, there are no startups that are like rolling in dough right now. Like none. Like no. Like all of it. I know the most successful Muslim startups and founders out there, and we're all like barely making ends meet. Like, you know, it looks better than it probably is, and that's how it is for all startups. Mm-hmm. But I do believe like in the next 5, 10, 15 years, you're going to see a transformation within this space where people really have, inshallah, successful companies building careers. You know, I would pray like Launchgood's a company that employs hundreds of people with benefits and all that stuff, right? My concern now, like, I think that's just happening. That's going to happen. It's just a matter of time. My concern there is, what are our values? What are we building it upon? Is it a cultural thing? Like, Muslims are just like a culture, like Latinos, like we got, you know, or like Chinese, or is it faith-based? Is it value-based? That's actually hard. And I think that's what you probably don't see if you're outside of what's going on in the startup space, is that struggle for identity and maintaining those values within it. And sometimes, actually, maybe sometimes you've heard of it. Like, I don't know if you heard of, it happens more in the UK, but like you'll see these like get rich quick schemes, or I don't know. It's a fine line. Like, people, you know, you have to be careful. Like the Shaitan of Israel, right? And people are making money in the service of the deen, and it's very easy for like intentions to go awry. I mean, we've seen it here in America, actually, like people who've done really great work, and then subhanAllah, like kind of their ego gets in the way, and their work gets like, wasted.
Yeah. Know exactly what you're talking about. Yeah.
Oh,
I mean, you can imagine. I want to put you guys on the hot seat. And, you know, I can imagine it happening with madmamluks. Like, let's say you become so popular, and you have this you become popular means you have a dedicated fan base. It really means like you're beholden to your fan base. Yeah. Mm-hmm. And then let's say something is like really popular in the mainstream. Yeah. So for example, what would be a good example? Something that's popular that you would upset your fan base with, like like if you took a stand on it, might upset your fan base. Let's just say, there's something. I don't want to say something totally against the religion, because obviously that'll be too obvious. That has to be obvious. More subtle. Like,
let's just say the American government no longer likes Turkey, because I know a lot of our fans love Turkey.
Yes.
And we said, you know what? Maybe Turkey isn't the
Holy Land.
Yeah, isn't the great place that we thought it was.
Yes. And you feel like your values might tell you have to stand up for that. Yeah. But you know your fan base is like wearing, you know, the Ertugrul hats and all that, right? And so it's like, now your whole business, your livelihood, dozens of employees and they don't have dozens of employees now. We're talking in the future to our listeners, are depending on you. Do you really take that stance? Yeah. That's a hard decision to make.
It's tough, man. It's tough.
And that's what I see the challenge for a lot of Islamic startups is now.
Bring that intellectual honesty, that, hey, can you be able to stick to what you know is true and correct, and, risk hurting your audience, when you need to make that stand. And that's something I grapple with every day. Like, I'm kind of a loudmouth on Twitter. I mean, I'd like to think I'm pretty nice, though, in my own way. I try to treat everyone with respect, but when I feel like there's something Islamic happening, I'll say that, you know what, this is not something that's conducive to the religion. But sometimes I know that there are people who are looking at my post or something like that, and I'm like, you know what, this probably upset them and rubbed them the wrong way, but I I respect their ability to have or not take a stand on that position, and I feel like they should respect my right to have a stand on something that that they may
don't
not
agree with.
yeah, they may not feel strongly about, or they may not care about it at all. So I feel like there is that struggle that as content creators or as heads of organizations, that you will always have to either take a stand on something, or just completely be beholden to your audience. And somebody was just asking me today, like, what kind of person would you not want to engage with on social media? And I said, like, I don't want to engage with someone who has to respond to a large fan base. I'll rather engage with an Islamophobe, people who are insulting, but someone who has a large fan base, because they're not going to be intellectually honest, because they have to, if they do concede, they're going to have to go face their audience the next day and answer for their sin of actually conceding to something. So I really feel like there is that component to social media and being on large platforms.
We're kind of in the Meccan phase right now of digital Islamic startups, meaning like there aren't that many. If you're doing it, you're probably sincere. Like there aren't really like quote unquote hypocrites. There are like a few people that go astray and stuff, but like there's just not a lot of money. If you want to make money, like you'd be pretty dumb to try to do it in this space. But we're going to enter a Medina phase in the future.
Inshallah,
awesome. And there'll be a lot of money.
Yeah.
And that, just like there was a lot of people starting to become Muslim, and all of a sudden it was advantageous for certain people to become Muslim. And then you start to get the hypocrites.
Yeah.
It doesn't, like, you're still supposed to move that direction. Like that, we should do whatever we can to help spread Islam. Right? We should do whatever we can to help grow the global digital Islamic economy or whatever, right? But we have to be aware that those challenges lie ahead of us. And so I take, even the people I've mentioned today, Muhammad Faiz, Peter Gould, Nadine or Zainab or any of these people, I think we all take very seriously our ethics and the way we run our businesses, because they're not going to be forever. Like, I really hope Launchgood is around for hundreds of years.
Right.
It may not be around for another 2 years. Like, God knows best what's going to happen.
Right.
But at least I pray that we can lay a foundation, an example down for people to follow.
Yeah. Of
good ways, like the right way to run your businesses. We work hard at that.
No, I appreciate it.
Thank you so much for your time today, Chris. Any closing thoughts? Any words of advice you would like to pass on? Or how to
get in touch with him, how to reach him on social media.
Social media these days, more on Twitter than anything else, which is interesting. I haven't figured out why I do that. I feel like it's less noisy because, I don't know, even though it's really noisy, but I'm on Twitter. I think I want to say AR Blauvelt. So my Muslim nickname is Abdurrahman.
Oh, okay.
So at AR Blauvelt.
We'll include in the description.
What else would I say? For listeners of the podcast, you're really blessed, and you got Sim and Naureen here are awesome.
Oh, thank you.
I wish I got to meet your other co-hosts, inshallah, next time. Guys, just stick with it. Like I said, I really do believe in the future of this space.
Yeah.
People are thirsty for high quality content that's relevant to the context of their life. And
the podcast space is nascent. There's no real a multi-million download podcast out there. At least for practicing Muslims.
No, that's right.
It all belongs to the non-Muslims of the world, like Joe Rogan, Tim Ferriss, and all the major podcasters out there. But for Muslims, it's sad actually that a lot of times I'll hear from people who are in college or university saying that I'm having to beg people to listen to your podcast. Like, hey, listen to this. This podcast is talking about things that you're really struggling with, and people just want entertainment. They don't take anything seriously other than what's on Netflix and what's being discussed
Instant
in media.
gratification.
Yeah. So
that's the era we're
but
in.
that is the next challenge that, I think as people realize the value of platforms like this, I think the future is only high. But thank you so much, Chris, for my...
Barakallahu. Allah bless you guys. And if anyone ever wants, advice, help, whatever, just like I said, hit me up. We're in the business of helping people, inspiring people, and building our community as Muslims globally.
Awesome. Thank you so much.
Jazakallah khair.
For questions, comments, and concerns, you can reach us at info@themadmamluks.com. You can listen to us on www.themadmamluks.com. It's a recently redesigned website. Some of the episodes have not been fully updated, so if you get any broken links, it'll probably be with the older episodes. The newer ones should be fine. And also make sure to subscribe to us on Twitter, Facebook.
Catch the YouTube lives.
Yes, make sure you subscribe to us on YouTube Live and support our sponsors, mywasia.com. Get your Islamic will made in 15 minutes. Also, halfardeen.com. Halfardeen.com is the private Muslim matrimonial website. If you're not looking for a spouse, maybe recommend this website to someone who may potentially be in the market. So for my co-host, Naureen Ahmed, also my wife, and Chris Blauvelt, my name is Sim. Assalamu alaikum.